This is WFYI News Now. It's January 24th, and I'm Abriana Herron. On today's show, the annual survey of people experiencing homelessness in Indianapolis, local impact from President Donald Trump taking action on some of his immigration campaign promises, and a Republican-sponsored bill prevents school districts from teaching or promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion.
We want teachers to teach about Martin Luther King. We want teachers to teach about how slavery was wrong. This bill does not prevent any of those things from happening.
Those stories coming up, but first. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and the city of Indianapolis announced Evonda Bean will be the next CEO of the Indianapolis Housing Agency. The announcement comes after years of mismanagement within the agency, which led to a HUD takeover in April. According to a HUD press release, Bean was appointed to restore confidence in the agency's operations. Bean revealed the move in a video message.
The organization is troubled and in HUD receivership and needs my skill set to come in and turn things around.
Bean has been the CEO of the Columbia Housing Authority in South Carolina since 2019. Prior to that, she served as the leader of a Louisiana Housing Authority, where she was credited with stabilizing the agency after 5 years under HUD control. Bean starts her new role on February 17th. The annual survey of people experiencing homelessness in Indianapolis kicked off Wednesday night. WFYI's Jill Sheridan reports on the point-in-time count.
The count records the number of people experiencing homelessness on a single night in January. Last year, Indianapolis found 1,701 people without housing, a 5% increase from the year before. The count is led by the Coalition for Homelessness Intervention and Prevention, along with other partners. Volunteers spread out across the city to survey people in various locations, including homeless service centers, libraries, and encampments. The count is federally mandated for municipalities that receive funding for programs. Methodology for the count changed during the pandemic. It can now be facilitated over a number of days instead of a single night. People in Indianapolis will still be asked about their housing situation on the night of January 22nd. I'm Jill Sheridan.
President Donald Trump's first day in office included taking action on some of his immigration campaign promises. WFYI's Samantha Horton reports how one Indianapolis organization may be affected.
Shortly after being sworn into office, Trump signed a flurry of executive orders, including several around immigration. The orders include ending birthright citizenship and suspending the U.S. refugee admissions program. Exodus Refugee Immigration CEO Cole Varga says the last few months have been busy for his team to get as many refugees to Indiana as possible. Now he says they have to wait and see what happens, leaving some refugees in limbo.
We have 114 people scheduled on the books for February, and now at this point it looks like those folks likely will not be able to resettle anymore. We hope that changes.
Varga says Exodus teams in Indianapolis and Bloomington together welcomed more than 800 new refugees to Indiana in 2024. I'm Samantha Horton.
And for our final story today, a Republican-sponsored bill would prevent school districts from teaching or promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. From WFYI's Education Desk, Rachel Fredette reports on the effort to ban DEI in education.
Senate Bill 289 would prohibit K-12 schools from teaching or promoting to students that one race, sex, ethnicity, religion, or national origin is inherently superior or inferior to another. Opponents of the legislation say it will prevent educators from discussing parts of U.S. and world history, like slavery and civil rights. Republican Senator Gary Byrne, who co-authored the bill, disagrees.
We want teachers to teach about Martin Luther King. We want teachers to teach about how slavery was wrong. This bill does not prevent any of those things from happening.
The bill would allow Indiana's Attorney General to force districts, charter schools, and state agencies to comply with its rules. I'm Rachel Fredette.
The bill now heads to the full Senate for discussion. That's all for today's episode of WFYI News Now. Our podcast is produced by Drew Daudelin and Zach Bundy, with support from the news team at WFYI and public media journalists across the state. Our news director is Sarah Neal-Estes. Kendall Antron produced our music, and I'm your host, Abriana Herron. If you like today's episode, remember to subscribe and share, and follow WFYI on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube to check in on our newsroom throughout the day. Thanks for listening. We'll be back on Monday.